Hello, story lovers. Tonight, we're diving into a tale of passion, secrets, and choices that could change everything. Hearts will be broken, love will be tested, and every twist will leave you on the edge of your seat. Comment below where you're watching from. And if this story moves you, hit like, subscribe. Share it with someone who loves a powerful love story. And tap the bell so you never miss the next thrilling chapter. Ready? Let's begin. Asterisk, the Grand Plaza Hotel rose like a monument to wealth Emma Bennett would never touch. She clutched 3 massive bouquets against her chest, white roses and orchids worth more than 3 months of her rent. The marble floor made her worn sneakers squeak with every anxious step. 2 years delivering flowers to the elite. 2 years of being invisible? Wedding delivery. Imperial Ballroom, she told the desk clerk who didn't bother looking up. The elevator doors opened on the 3rd floor. Gold-framed mirrors lined the corridor, reflecting a version of Emma she barely recognized. Tired eyes, calloused hands, a cotton dress that had seen too many wash cycles, music drifted from behind massive double doors. The Imperial Ballroom. Her delivery slip confirmed it. The doors stood slightly open. Emma pushed through with her shoulder, careful with the delicate petals. Then she stopped breathing. Hundreds of guests in designer gowns and tailored suits filled the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers threw rainbow light across polished floors. A string quartet played something classical and haunting near a 7-tier wedding cake. But Emma saw only the man at the altar. Daniel Stone stood perfectly still in a charcoal tuxedo. His dark hair immaculate, his jaw tight with tension. She'd seen his face in magazines. The billionaire who'd built a tech empire before 30, everyone knew Daniel Stone. But knowing someone's face and meeting their eyes were different universes. His deep brown gaze found hers across the crowded room. 3 heartbeats passed. Neither looked away. In that suspended moment, Emma saw something raw in his expression. Not anger, not confusion. Something that looked like recognition. Like he'd been waiting for someone to walk through those doors and she'd finally arrived. "Excuse me, what are you doing here?" A sharp voice shattered the moment. A tall woman in silver marched toward Emma, manicured finger pointing like a weapon. "This is a private ceremony." "Security?" Emma stumbled backward, nearly dropping the bouquets. "I'm so sorry. I'm just delivering flowers." Wrong ballroom. Before security could reach her, an elderly woman stood from the front row. She moved with startling speed for someone in her 80s. Pearl necklace gleaming as she approached Emma. Her wrinkled hand reached out, trembling, and touched Emma's face. "Oh, dear God," Catherine Stone whispered. "You have her eyes? You have Elizabeth's eyes." Emma's blood turned to ice. "My mother's name was Elizabeth. Elizabeth Bennett." The ballroom erupted in whispers. Daniel stepped forward from the altar. His bride grabbed his arm, but his attention remained fixed on Emma, like she was the only real thing in the room. "Elizabeth Bennett worked for our family 28 years ago," Catherine said, tears streaming down her powdered cheeks. "She was my son Thomas's great love." "You must be her daughter," Floor tilted. Emma's mother had died 5 years ago, taking most of her secrets to the grave. She'd worked as a nurse in the city once, but refused to speak of those years. She'd raised Emma alone in a cramped apartment, working multiple jobs, always looking over her shoulder like someone might find them. "My mother never mentioned your family," Emma said quietly. Aware of hundreds of wealthy strangers staring, "We lived simply. We weren't connected to people like you." Catherine's face crumbled. "That's because my husband drove her away. Philip Stone threatened to take you from your mother if she didn't leave, and never contact us again. He used his wealth and power to terrify a young woman whose only crime was falling in love with our son." "This is completely inappropriate," a woman hissed from the altar. The bride. "Father Martinez, continue the ceremony. This girl obviously wandered in by mistake." But Daniel pulled free from her grip. He walked down the aisle, expensive shoes clicking against polished floor, until he stood directly before Emma. Up close, she could see the conflict in his eyes. The way his hands clenched and unclenched. "What's your name?" His voice was low, intense, Emma. Emma Bennett. Emma. He repeated it like he was tasting the syllables. My Uncle Thomas kept a photograph in his wallet. A woman holding a baby girl. He looked at it every day until he died 3 years ago. Never married. Never moved on. He said he'd lost the only woman he could ever love. Emma's eyes filled with tears. My mother kept a photograph too. A man with kind eyes holding her hand in a garden. She'd look at it late at night when she thought I was asleep. She'd cry and whisper his name. Thomas. She said it like a prayer. The silence was deafening. Daniel reached out slowly as if afraid she might vanish. He took the bouquets from her arms, handed them to a stunned waiter. Then he took Emma's hands in his. I'm so sorry, Daniel said, and the rawness in his voice made her heart ache. I'm sorry for what my family did to your mother, for the childhood you lost, for the cruelty that separated two people who loved each other. Daniel Stone, what are you doing? The bride's voice cracked with panic. Get back here this instant. What? But Daniel didn't move. He kept holding Emma's hands, kept looking into her eyes like he was seeing something he'd been searching for his entire life. I don't know you, he said to Emma. I have no right to feel what I'm feeling right now. But the moment you walked through those doors, everything changed. Like waking up from a long sleep and finally seeing colors for the first time. Emma should have pulled away, should have apologized, and left this beautiful, complicated world that wasn't hers. But she couldn't move, couldn't break the connection that hummed between them like electricity. I should go, she whispered. This is your wedding day. I've ruined everything. You haven't ruined anything, Daniel said firmly. You've shown me the truth. I've been standing at that altar for 30 minutes saying words I don't mean, making promises I can't keep. Marrying Veronica was supposed to be good for business, good for our family's alliance, good for everything except my heart. This is insane. The bride ran down the aisle. Daniel, we have 200 guests here. Signed contracts. Our families have invested millions in merging our companies. Daniel finally released Emma's hands and turned to face his bride. I'm sorry, Veronica. I truly am. You deserve someone who loves you the way my uncle loved Elizabeth. But that person isn't me. I can't marry you. The ballroom exploded. Veronica slapped Daniel across the face, her engagement ring leaving a red mark on his cheek. Catherine collapsed into a chair, overcome, and Emma stood at the center of it all. A simple flower delivery girl.
Food.
Accidentally walked into the wrong wedding, and somehow changed everything. Please leave, Veronica said coldly to Emma. You've done enough damage for one day. Emma nodded, vision blurred with tears. She turned toward the door, desperate to escape. Emma, wait. She stopped but didn't turn around. Can I see you again? Daniel asked. After all this settles, after I fix this mess I've created, can I find you? Emma looked back over her shoulder. Daniel stood alone now, his canceled wedding in chaos around him. His face marked where his almost wife had struck him, but his eyes held hope. Bennett Flowers on Maple Street, Emma said softly. Open Tuesday through Saturday. Then she walked out of the Grand Plaza Hotel, leaving behind the most surreal hour of her life. As the elevator descended, Emma caught her reflection in the mirrored walls. Simple cotton dress. Messy ponytail. She looked absurd compared to the glamour she'd just witnessed. She was from a different world then. It's Daniel Stone. Their paths should never have crossed. But as Emma stepped into the afternoon sunlight, she could still feel the warmth of Daniel's hands holding hers. Could still see the way he'd looked at her, as if she were the answer to a question he'd been asking his entire life. Deep in her heart, Emma knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. 3 days passed before Emma saw Daniel again. 3 restless nights replaying every moment of that catastrophic wedding. 3 days of her younger brother Lucas, asking endless questions about the mysterious billionaire who'd stopped his own ceremony. 3 days of checking the shop door every time the bell chimed, hoping and fearing it might be him. When Daniel finally walked into Bennett Flowers on Thursday afternoon, Emma was arranging sunflowers in the back room. The door chime rang. I'll be right there, she called out. But when she emerged, wiping her hands on her apron, She found Daniel Stone standing awkwardly among buckets of roses and daisies. His expensive suit looked completely out of place. "Hello, Emma," he said softly. "Hello, Daniel." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. "I didn't think you'd actually come. I've thought about nothing else since Saturday." Daniel ran his hand through his hair, a gesture that made him seem less like a powerful billionaire and more like a nervous man. "The wedding made every newspaper in the city. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Business partners are furious. Veronica's family is threatening to sue." "I'm sorry," Emma whispered. "Don't be." Daniel stepped closer. "I'm not." The air between them felt charged. Emma could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. Could see the faint bruise on his cheek where Veronica's ring had struck him. "Why did you really come here?" Emma asked. Daniel was quiet for a moment, studying her face like he was memorizing it. "Because when I looked at you in that ballroom, I felt something I've never felt before. Like I was supposed to find you. Like everything in my life has been leading to that moment. You don't even know me. Then let me know you." Daniel's voice was urgent now. "Have dinner with me? Let me understand why I can't stop thinking about you. Why I walked away from a wedding that took a year to plan." Emma wanted to say yes. God, she wanted to. But fear clawed at her chest. "Daniel, you're a billionaire. I deliver flowers. We live in completely different worlds. My Uncle Thomas was a Stone. Your mother was a nurse. They loved each other anyway." Daniel reached out, gently taking her hand. "Maybe we're finishing what they started." Before Emma could respond, the shop door burst open. A woman in a black suit strode in, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. She was beautiful in a cold, corporate way. Blonde hair pulled back severely, eyes like ice. "Mr. Stone," she said crisply, "your grandmother sent me to find you." Daniel didn't release Emma's hand. "I'm in the middle of something, Patricia. It's urgent." Patricia's gaze flicked to Emma with barely concealed disdain. "Your grandfather's will is being read today. You need to be there." Emma pulled her hand away. "You should go, Emma. It's fine, really." Emma forced a smile. "Family comes first." Daniel looked torn but finally nodded. "Can I call you?" Emma wrote her number on the back of a business card with trembling fingers. As Daniel left with Patricia, he looked back once. The longing in his eyes made Emma's breath catch. The door chimed shut. Emma stood alone in her flower shop, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life by letting him walk away. That evening, Emma's phone rang. "Emma, it's Catherine. Catherine Stone." Emma nearly dropped her phone. "Mrs. Stone, how did you get my number?" "Daniel gave it to me. Please, I need to see you. There are things you need to know about your mother. About Thomas. About why Philip did what he did." Catherine's voice cracked. "Can you come to the estate tomorrow? Please." Emma's hand tightened on the phone. "I don't know if that's a good idea." "Your mother was the daughter I never had," Catherine said softly. "I loved her like my own. And Philip destroyed that. Before I die, I need to make it right. I need to tell you the truth about your family, about who you really are." The words hung in the air like a promise and a threat. "What do you mean, who I really are?" "Tomorrow, please, 2:00. I'll send a car." Catherine hung up before Emma could refuse. Emma stared at her phone, heart racing. Part of her wanted to ignore the invitation, to stay in her safe, simple world where she knew who she was and where she belonged. But the other part, the part that had always wondered why her mother looked so sad, why she died with regrets written across her face, needed answers. The next afternoon, a black car pulled up outside Bennett Flowers. Lucas watched from the shop window, eyes wide. "Emma, are you sure about this?" "No," Emma admitted, grabbing her coat. "But I'm going anyway." The Stone estate sat on 50 acres outside the city. The main house was a sprawling mansion of stone and glass, surrounded by manicured gardens that probably cost more to maintain than Emma made in a year. Catherine met her at the door, looking frailer than she had at the wedding. She took Emma's hands in her papery ones. "Looks so much like her," Catherine whispered. "So much like Elizabeth?" She led Emma through marble halls lined with family portraits, stone men and women staring down with expressions ranging from stern to cold. Your mother came to us as a private nurse for Thomas after his car accident, Catherine began. He was 25, angry at the world, drinking too much, refusing treatment. Then Elizabeth walked into his room and everything changed. They reached a private study. Catherine gestured for Emma to sit. They fell in love within weeks. Thomas wanted to marry her, but Philip refused. He said Elizabeth was unsuitable, that she was after Thomas's money, that a stone couldn't marry a nobody. Emma's throat tightened. But she wasn't after money. My mother was the most honest person I knew. I know. Catherine pulled out a folder from her desk drawer. Philip gave Thomas an ultimatum. Give up Elizabeth, or be disowned. Lose everything. What did Thomas choose? Catherine's eyes filled with tears. He chose your mother. Walked away from the family fortune, from his name. From everything, he went to Elizabeth and told her they'd start over together. Build a new life. Emma's hands trembled. Then why didn't they? Because Philip went to Elizabeth first. Catherine opened the folder, revealing old photographs. Emma's mother, young and beautiful, holding a baby. He told her that if she didn't disappear, he'd destroy her, ruin her career, make sure she never worked again. And he'd use his connections to prove she was an unfit mother. Take you away. Emma's vision blurred. She left to protect me. She loved you more than anything. More than Thomas. More than her own happiness. Catherine pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age. She left this letter for Thomas. He never opened it. Couldn't bear to. But I kept it, hoping someday I'd find you and give it to you. Emma took the envelope with shaking hands. Her mother's handwriting on the front. To Thomas, with all my love. There's more, Catherine said quietly. Something you need to know before you get involved with Daniel. Emma looked up, dread pooling in her stomach. Philip's will was read today. He left his entire fortune to Daniel. But there's a condition. Catherine's face was grave. Daniel must marry within 1 year to someone Philip approved of. Veronica Parker was on that list. You are not. What happens if he doesn't? Everything goes to Philip's business partner. Daniel loses the company he built. Loses his ability to protect the family legacy. Loses everything. Emma stood abruptly, the letter clutched in her hand. You're telling me this because you want me to stay away from him? No. Catherine stood too, her voice fierce despite her age. I'm telling you this because you deserve the truth. Because I won't let another generation be destroyed by Philip's cruelty. Daniel cares about you, Emma. I saw it in his eyes at that wedding. But you need to know what being with you will cost him. Emma felt like she was drowning. Why are you really doing this? Why now? Catherine reached out, cupping Emma's face. Because I failed your mother. I didn't fight for her when I should have. I let Philip bully her into disappearing. I lost a son to heartbreak because I was too weak to stand up to my husband. Tears streamed down Catherine's wrinkled cheeks. I won't fail you two. Whatever you decide, whatever Daniel decides, I'll fight for you both. Even if it means destroying everything Philip built. The door to the study opened. Daniel stood in the doorway, still in his suit from the will reading. His face was pale, his eyes redrimmed, like he'd been crying or hadn't slept in days. Emma, he said hoarsely. You're here. I should go. Emma moved toward the door, but Daniel blocked her path. She knows, Catherine said quietly. I told her about the will. About Philip's conditions. Now Daniel's jaw clenched. Grandmother, she deserved to know the truth. Daniel turned to Emma, and the raw pain in his eyes made her want to reach for him. Is that why you're leaving? Because of money? I'm leaving because this is impossible, Emma said, voice breaking. Your grandfather made sure of that. My grandfather is dead. Daniel stepped closer. And I don't care about his money. I don't care about his company. I care about you. You barely know me. Then why does it feel like I've been waiting my whole life to find you? Daniel's voice rose, desperate. Why did I walk away from my wedding the moment you appeared? Why can't I stop thinking about you? Because we're our parents' unfinished story, Emma said, tears streaming down her face. Because you see your uncle in me, and I see my mother in you. But we're not them, Daniel. We're ourselves. And we have to live with the consequences they couldn't. She pushed past him, heading for the door. Emma, please. She stopped, hand on the doorframe, but didn't turn around. I read the will today, Daniel said quietly. I have 10 months to marry someone on my grandfather's approved list, or I lose everything. The company, the fortune, all of it, then marry someone on the list. Emma forced the words out. Find someone suitable. Live the life you're supposed to live. What if I don't want that life? Emma finally turned. Daniel stood in the middle of his grandmother's study, surrounded by the wealth and privilege that defined him, looking more lost than any man she'd ever seen. What if I want you? He whispered. Before Emma could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her blood turned to ice. A text from an unknown number. Just a photo. Her brother Lucas, unconscious. Tied to a chair, and a message, "Stay away from Daniel Stone, or your brother pays the price." Emma's knees buckled. Daniel caught her before she fell. Taking the phone from her trembling hands, his face went white when he saw the image. "Who sent this?" he demanded. "I don't know." Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "Oh God, Lucas. They have Lucas." Daniel was already dialing barking orders into his phone. "Track this number now. I want every available resource on this. Find the location." Catherine clutched the desk, face pale. Philip's business partners. They must have found out about Emma. Emma couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her baby brother, who'd just turned 18, who dreamed of being a musician. Who was innocent in all of this? Another text came through. "You have 24 hours to disappear. Leave the city. Leave Daniel Stone, or we start removing fingers." Emma looked up at Daniel, terror and resolve warring in her chest. "I have to go. I have to give them what they want." "No." Daniel's grip on her arms was fierce. "We'll find him. I have people. Resources. We'll get Lucas back, if we don't." Emma's voice broke. "If they hurt him because of me, because I walked into your wedding and ruined everything? This isn't your fault, isn't it?" Emma pulled away. "Your grandfather spent his whole life keeping people like me away from your family. Maybe he was right. Maybe I'm toxic to everyone I touch." She headed for the door again. But this time Daniel didn't just call after her. He followed. Caught her wrist in the hallway, spun her around and kissed her. It was desperate and fierce and tasted like tears and fear and something that felt dangerously close to love. Emma's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer even as her mind screamed at her to push him away. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Daniel pressed his forehead to hers. "I will burn down everything my grandfather built before I let them hurt you or your brother," he said fiercely. "Do you understand me? Everything." Emma's phone buzzed again. They both looked down at the screen. A video this time. Lucas, awake now, terror in his young eyes. As a masked figure held a knife to his throat. 24 hours, Emma Bennett. Tick-tock. The video ended. Emma looked up at Daniel and made a choice that would change both their lives forever. "Then we have 24 hours to destroy them first." Daniel's penthouse overlooked the city like a glass fortress. Emma stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching lights flicker in the darkness below while Daniel's security team worked behind her. 8 hours since the video. 8 hours of tracking phones and hacking surveillance cameras and pulling every string. Daniel's money could buy nothing. "The number's a burner, Marcus," Daniel's head of security said grimly. "Routed through 3 different countries. Whoever took your brother knows what they're doing." Emma pressed her palm against the cold glass. "They're professionals, yes." Daniel joined her at the window, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Which means this isn't random. Someone planned this." Catherine had gone home hours ago, promising to dig through Philip's old files for names. Business partners who might want revenge. Enemies who'd hold grudges beyond the grave. Emma's phone sat on the table behind them, silent now, waiting for the next message, the next threat. Tell me about Lucas, Daniel said softly. Emma's throat tightened. He's 18. Wants to study music. Plays guitar like my mother used to. He's kind and funny and doesn't deserve any of this. We'll find him, you keep saying that. Emma turned to face Daniel. But what if we don't? What if I made the wrong choice? I should have just left. Disappeared like they wanted. Spent the rest of your life wondering if they'd killed him anyway. Daniel's jaw was tight. No, we fight. Emma studied his face, seeing the exhaustion in his eyes. The weight he carried. Why are you doing this? You barely know me. You barely know Lucas. You could lose everything. Oh. I already told you why. That's not an answer. That's a feeling. Feelings fade, Daniel. But consequences last forever. Daniel reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so gentle, so intimate, that Emma's breath caught. When I was standing at that altar, I felt dead inside, Daniel said quietly. I'd convinced myself that was what adult life looked like. Making smart choices. Building empires. Marrying for strategy instead of love. I thought I was being pragmatic. His hand cupped her cheek. Then you walked through those doors, and I felt alive for the first time in years. Maybe in my whole life. You think I'm going to walk away from that? Emma closed her eyes, leaning into his touch despite every logical part of her brain screaming warnings. Your grandfather's partners won't stop, even if we get Lucas back. They'll keep coming. Then we make sure they can't. Emma opened her eyes. How? Daniel's expression went cold, calculating. The billionaire entrepreneur who'd built an empire before 30, we find out which partner sent those messages. And we destroy them before they destroy us. Mr. Stone? Marcus approached, tablet in hand. We've got something. Security footage from 3 blocks away from Bennett Flowers. A black van, no plates, parked outside for 2 hours before Lucas was taken. Daniel took the tablet, Emma peering over his shoulder. The footage showed a nondescript van, windows tinted dark. Can you enhance the image? Emma asked. Marcus tapped the screen. The image zoomed in on the driver's side window. For just a moment, the window was down far enough to see inside. Emma's blood froze. I know that man, she whispered. Daniel looked at her sharply. Who is he? James Crawford. He used to work for a private security firm. My mother hired him once, years ago, when someone broke into our apartment. She was terrified, paranoid about being found. Crawford was supposed to protect us. Emma's hands trembled. But after a week, my mother fired him. She said he asked too many questions. Wanted to know why we were hiding. Who we were hiding from? He was gathering information, Daniel said grimly. Probably working for my grandfather even then. Marcus was already typing furiously. James Crawford. Former military. Discharged under suspicious circumstances. Now runs a private contractor firm called Phantom Security. Known for handling delicate situations for wealthy clients. Delicate situations, Emma repeated bitterly. You mean kidnapping? Intimidation? Making problems disappear? Daniel's phone rang. He answered it. Listened for a moment. Then his face went pale. Emma demanded. Daniel hung up. That was my lawyer. Veronica Parker just filed a lawsuit. Breach of contract. Emotional damages. She's asking for $50 million. $50 million? Emma felt dizzy. And there's more. Daniel's voice was hollow. She's claiming I was having an affair with you before the wedding. That the whole thing was planned. She's dragging your name through every media outlet in the city. Emma sank into a chair. They're attacking from every angle. Legal, personal, Lucas. Coordinated, Marcus said. This is bigger than one disgruntled ex-fiancé. Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but Emma knew it was the same people holding Lucas. Check your email. We've sent you a gift. Daniel opened his laptop. Emma stood behind him, watching as he pulled up his email. A video file. Daniel hesitated, then clicked play. Lucas appeared on screen. Still tied to the chair, but awake. Alert, his lip was bleeding, and there was a bruise forming on his cheek. "Emma," Lucas said, voice shaking. "I'm okay. They haven't hurt me badly. But they want me to tell you something." He glanced off camera, clearly being prompted. "They said to tell you that Daniel Stone's grandfather, Philip, made a lot of enemies. People he crushed on his way to building his empire. People who lost everything because of him." Lucas swallowed hard. "They said Philip's dead now, so they can't make him pay. But they can make his grandson pay. They can make his family pay." Tears streamed down Lucas's face. "Emma," they said, "if you and Daniel don't announce your engagement by tomorrow night, if you don't agree to marry him and tie yourself to the Stone family publicly, they'll kill me." Emma's world tilted. "What?" "They want you to become a Stone," Lucas continued. "They want the media frenzy, the scandal. They want to destroy the family name by forcing Daniel to marry someone Philip deemed unsuitable. It's about revenge, about humiliation." The video cut to a masked figure. The voice was digitally distorted. "You have until midnight tomorrow, Mr. Stone. Announce your engagement to Emma Bennett. Make it public. Make it humiliating. Show the world that Philip Stone's precious legacy is marrying a nobody flower delivery girl, or the boy dies." The video ended. Silence filled the penthouse. Emma felt like she was underwater. Everything was muffled and distant, unreal. "They want us to get engaged," she said numbly. "They want to use our relationship as a weapon." Daniel was very still. It's brilliant, actually. "They get revenge on my grandfather by forcing me into exactly what he tried to prevent. And they make sure I lose everything in the process." "What do you mean?" Daniel looked at her, and Emma saw the trap closing around them. "The will. I have to marry someone on my grandfather's approved list within a year. If I announce my engagement to you, I'm publicly declaring my intention to marry someone who's not on that list." "You'll lose the company," Emma said. "The fortune, everything. If I don't announce it, Lucas dies." Marcus cleared his throat. "There might be another way. We could fake the engagement. Announce it, by time. Find Lucas, then call it off." "They're watching," Emma said. "They'll know if it's fake. They'll kill him anyway." She turned to Daniel, heartbreaking. "You have to let me go. Announce that we've broken up. That the wedding disruption was a mistake. A moment of insanity. Then marry someone on your grandfather's list and save your legacy." "No, Daniel, no." He stood, moving toward her with fierce determination. "I'm not losing you. I'm not losing Lucas, and I'm sure as hell not letting my grandfather's enemies win. Then what do we do?" Emma's voice broke. "How do we save everyone?" Daniel took her hands in his, the same way he had at the wedding, the same electric connection humming between them. "We give them exactly what they want," Daniel said. "We announce our engagement. We make it public and messy and perfect for their revenge. We let them think they've won. But you'll lose everything. Maybe." Daniel's thumb traced circles on her palm. "Or maybe we find a loophole. A way to save the company and Lucas and us," Emma repeated softly. "Is there an us?" Daniel pulled her closer. "I walked away from my wedding for you. I'm about to throw away a billion-dollar empire for you. What do you think?" Emma wanted to be strong, wanted to push him away and save him from himself. But she was so tired of being strong, of being alone, of carrying weight that was never meant to be hers. "I think you're insane," she whispered. "I think we barely know each other. I think this is the worst possible decision either of us could make. But," Daniel's forehead touched hers, "but I can't walk away either." They stayed like that for a moment, foreheads pressed together, breathing each other's air, the calm before the storm that would destroy them both. Daniel's phone buzzed again. Another text. Another video, this time Lucas was screaming. Emma lunged for the phone, but Daniel held it away from her. His face had gone white as he watched. "What are they doing to him?" Emma grabbed Daniel's arm. "What's happening?" Daniel showed her the screen. Lucas, still tied up, but now with shallow cuts on his arms. Not deep, not fatal, but bleeding. A warning of what could happen. The masked figure appeared again. "That's for making us wait. Next time, we go deeper. Tick-tock, lovebirds. Emma couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Lucas's screams echoed in her head. We announce the engagement tonight, Daniel said, voice like steel. Marcus, call my PR team. Tell them to prepare a statement. Daniel, wait. Catherine's voice came from the penthouse entrance. No one had heard her arrive. She stood in the doorway, looking older than her 80 years, clutching a folder to her chest. I found something in Philip's files, Catherine said. Something that changes everything. She crossed the room, opened the folder on the coffee table. Documents spilled out. Legal papers, photographs, letters. Philip didn't just threaten your mother, Emma, Catherine said, hand shaking. He paid James Crawford to watch her, to document everything, to gather information he could use against her if she ever tried to contact Thomas again. Catherine pulled out a photograph. Emma's mother, pregnant, entering a clinic. This was taken 2 weeks before you were born, Emma, at a private clinic in upstate New York. Emma stared at the photo. I don't understand. Catherine pulled out another document. A birth certificate. But not the one Emma had always known. This one listed Thomas Stone as the father. Emma's hands went numb. The room spun. You're not just the daughter of the woman Thomas loved, Catherine whispered. You're his daughter. Philip knew. He always knew. That's why he was so desperate to keep your mother away. You were a Stone by blood. A legitimate heir. Daniel caught Emma as her knees buckled. She stared at the birth certificate, her mother's signature at the bottom, Thomas Stone's name in the father line. I'm a Stone, Emma said faintly. I'm his granddaughter. Catherine nodded, tears streaming. Philip had this document sealed, paid off officials, made sure it never saw the light of day. Your mother fled before Thomas could marry her, before he could legitimize you publicly. Philip made sure you grew up as Emma Bennett, not Emma Stone. Marcus leaned forward. If this is real, if Emma is Philip Stone's biological granddaughter, then she has as much claim to the estate as Daniel does. More than a claim, Catherine said. She's family. She's a Stone. And if Daniel marries her, the will's conditions might not apply. Daniel finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. If Emma's already a Stone, if she's already family, then marrying her wouldn't violate grandfather's wishes. He wanted to keep the fortune in the family. She is the family. Emma pulled away from Daniel, backing toward the window. No, this is crazy. You're telling me my entire life has been a lie? That my mother kept this from me? She was protecting you, Catherine said gently. From Philip? From his cruelty? She wanted you to have a normal life, away from this world of money and power and corruption. And now you want to use it, Emma said bitterly. Use my blood to save Daniel's company. To save the precious Stone legacy. I want to save your brother, Catherine said fiercely. And to do that, we need leverage. We need to show Crawford and whoever hired him that you're not just some nobody they can intimidate. You're a Stone. You have power. You have claim to the fortune they're trying to steal. Emma looked at Daniel. Is that what I am to you now? Leverage? No. Daniel crossed to her, not touching, but close enough that she could see the truth in his eyes. You're the woman I'm falling in love with. The fact that you're also family just means I don't have to choose between my heart and my duty. You barely know me, Emma whispered. Then let me spend the rest of my life getting to know you. Daniel took her hand. Marry me, Emma? Not for the company. Not for the money. Not even for Lucas, though God knows I want to save him. Marry me because when I look at you, I see my future. And it's the first time my future has ever looked worth living. Emma's phone buzzed. Another message. Another countdown. 12 hours left. We're getting impatient. Emma looked at the birth certificate on the table. At Catherine's hopeful face, at Daniel's fierce determination, at Marcus and the security team watching her. Waiting for her decision, she thought of her mother, who'd sacrificed everything to protect her, who'd lived in fear and poverty and loneliness rather than claim what was rightfully hers. She thought of Thomas, who'd died heartbroken, carrying a photograph of a woman and baby he'd never stopped loving. She thought of Lucas, bleeding and terrified in some warehouse, paying the price for a family legacy that had nothing to do with him. And she thought of herself, Emma Bennett, who'd spent her whole life being invisible, being nobody, delivering flowers to other people's celebrations and going home to an empty apartment. Maybe it was time to stop being invisible. Maybe it was time to be Emma Stone. She looked up at Daniel. Decision made. Call your PR team, Emma said, voice steady now. We have an engagement to announce. And then we're going to find my brother and destroy everyone who thought they could use him against us. Daniel's eyes blazed with something that looked like pride, like hope, like love. He pulled out his phone, but before he could dial, every screen in the penthouse went black, then flickered back to life. James Crawford's face filled every monitor. Not masked this time, smiling like a shark. Hello, Emma Stone, Crawford said. Or should I say, hello, granddaughter of Philip Stone? Did you really think we didn't know? Did you think this was ever about revenge? Emma's blood turned to ice. We've been waiting for you to figure it out, Crawford continued. Waiting for Catherine to find that birth certificate. Waiting for you to claim your heritage. Because that's what we need. We need you to publicly become a Stone. We need you to marry Daniel. We need you to legitimize yourself before we can take what we really want. Daniel grabbed Emma's arm. What are you talking about? Crawford's smile widened. Philip Stone had two heirs, Daniel and Emma. The will states that if Daniel fails to marry appropriately, the fortune goes to Philip's business partner. But there's a clause. A little loophole Philip's lawyers tucked in. If both heirs are married to each other, the fortune can never leave the family. It's protected, consolidated, worth twice as much. Emma's stomach dropped. You want us to get married so you can kill us both? Clever girl. Crawford's eyes were cold. Once you're married, once the fortune is consolidated under both your names, we eliminate you. And as the party who facilitated the marriage, who has legal documentation of our role in bringing the heirs together, we claim the estate under the obscure inheritance clause Philip's partner negotiated decades ago. You'll never get away with this, Daniel said. We already have. The moment you announce your engagement, you start a legal process you can't stop. The moment you marry, you sign your death warrants. Crawford leaned closer to the camera. So go ahead. Save the boy. Announce your love. Become Emma Stone. And when you do, remember that you chose this. You walked right into the trap. The screens went black. The penthouse was silent except for Emma's ragged breathing. Marcus was already on his phone, barking orders. Lock down the building. Full security protocol? No one in or out. But Emma knew it was too late. They'd been playing Crawford's game from the beginning. Every choice, every decision had been leading them exactly where he wanted them. We can't announce the engagement, Emma said. It's what they want. It's their endgame. But if we don't, they kill Lucas. Daniel said. Catherine sank into a chair, face ashen. Philip, even dead, Philip is still destroying this family. Emma looked at the birth certificate still lying on the table. The proof of who she really was. The thing that was supposed to save them, but it was just another piece of the trap. She turned to Daniel, saw her own desperation reflected in his eyes. What do we do? She whispered. Daniel pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her like he could shield her from everything closing in around them. Do what we've been doing since the moment you walked into that ballroom, Daniel said into her hair. We change the story. We break the rules. We refuse to play their game. Emma pulled back to look at him. How? Daniel's expression was grim, determined, dangerous. We announce the engagement. We save Lucas. And then, before they can spring their trap, we burn the entire fortune to the ground. Asterisk, the press conference was scheduled for midnight. Daniel's PR team had worked miracles in 6 hours. Setting up cameras and lights in the penthouse, preparing statements, managing the media frenzy that had been building since the canceled wedding. Emma stood in front of the mirror in Daniel's bedroom, wearing a dress Catherine had brought. Simple, elegant, dark blue. She barely recognized herself. You don't have to do this, Daniel said from the doorway. Emma met his eyes in the mirror. Yes, I do. For Lucas, once we get him back? Daniel crossed the room, standing behind her. You don't have to actually marry me. We can call it off. Protect you from whatever Crawford has planned. Emma turned to face him. And lose the company? Everything you've built? I told you. I don't care about the money, liar. Emma said it gently, without judgment. You care. It's not about the money itself. It's about what it represents. Your independence. Your power to protect people. Your legacy that has nothing to do with your grandfather's cruelty. Daniel's jaw tightened. How do you see me so clearly? Because I've spent my whole life being invisible, Emma said. You learn to see people when no one sees you. A knock on the door. Marcus entered, phone in hand, expression grim. We've located Lucas. Warehouse in the industrial district. Crawford's got 12 men guarding him. Armed, professional. Can we get him out? Emma asked, hope flaring. Not without risk. If we go in hard, they might kill him before we reach him. Marcus looked at Daniel. But if we announce the engagement first, if we give them what they want, they might lower their guard. Give us an opening, or they might kill him anyway, Emma said. Once they have what they want, Lucas becomes a loose end. That's why we need insurance, Daniel said. He turned to Marcus. The documents. The files showing Crawford's connection to my grandfather. The evidence of the inheritance scheme. Package it all up and set it to release automatically if anything happens to any of us. A dead man's switch, Marcus said, nodding. I'll have it ready before the conference. As Marcus left, Emma reached for Daniel's hand. What did you mean earlier? About burning the fortune to the ground? Daniel laced his fingers through hers. I've been thinking about what my grandfather did. The cruelty. The manipulation. The way he used money as a weapon against people he should have protected. Your mother. Your father, Thomas, you? He pulled her closer. What if we take all that wealth, all that power, and we give it away? Set up foundations, scholarships, housing programs. We dismantle the empire before Crawford can claim it. Leave him with nothing but empty corporations and depleted accounts. Emma's breath caught. That would take months, years. Crawford won't wait that long. But we can start tonight. Immediately after the announcement, we transfer assets. Liquidate accounts. Move faster than any legal injunction can stop us. Daniel's eyes burned with determination. By the time Crawford realizes what we're doing, it'll be too late. You'd really destroy everything your grandfather built? I'd really destroy everything he corrupted, Daniel corrected, and maybe build something better in its place. Something that honors what Thomas and Elizabeth could have had. What they should have had. Emma rose on her toes, kissing him softly. Not the desperate, fear-fueled kiss from before. This was different. A promise. A choice made with clear eyes and full knowledge of the cost. When they broke apart, Daniel rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Emma Stone, or Emma Bennett. Whoever you choose to be, I love you. His throat tightened. You realize this is insane. We've known each other less than a week. My uncle loved your mother from the moment he met her. Maybe it runs in the family. That's not how love works. Then tell me what this is. Daniel cupped her face. Tell me why my heart stops when you walk into a room. Tell me why I'd burn the world down to keep you safe. Tell me why none of this, none of the money or power or legacy, means anything if you're not there. Emma closed her eyes, tears spilling down her cheeks. It's madness. It's trauma bonding. It's two people caught in an impossible situation, mistaking adrenaline for love. Is that what you think this is? Emma opened her eyes. No, God help me, no. I think you're right. I think I'm falling in love with you too. And it terrifies me more than Crawford. More than losing Lucas. Because if I'm wrong, if this feeling isn't real, it'll destroy me worse than anything your grandfather ever did. Daniel kissed her again, deeper this time. When he pulled back, his voice was rough with emotion. Then let's be destroyed together. At least we won't be alone. A buzzing from the dresser. Emma's phone. Another message. But this time it wasn't from Crawford. It was from Lucas. Emma, it's me. They left their phone unlocked. I don't have much time. The warehouse address is fake. It's a trap. They're going to ambush Daniel's security team when they show up. I'm actually at the message cutoff. Emma's hands shook as she showed Daniel. It's a trap. Marcus is walking into a trap. Daniel was already running, Emma close behind. They burst into the main room where Marcus was gearing up with his team. Stop, Daniel commanded. It's a trap. Lucas sent a message. The warehouse location is fake. Marcus froze. How do we know that message is really from Lucas? Crawford could have forced him to send it. We don't, Emma admitted. But if there's even a chance he's telling the truth, we can't risk sending your team into an ambush. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then we're back to square one. No location. No rescue plan. Just the press conference and hope. Catherine entered, moving faster than Emma had seen her move. I may have another option. Philip kept a private investigator on retainer. Man named Robert Chen. If anyone can find Lucas before Crawford realizes we're onto him, it's Chen. Can we trust him? Daniel asked. He hated Philip, Catherine said simply. But he respected Thomas. If I tell him this is for Thomas's daughter, he'll help. Emma pulled out her phone, opened the message from Lucas again. He was trying to tell us where he really is. The message cut off after I'm actually at. She showed it to Marcus. Can you trace this? Even if they took the phone away, there might be location data. Marcus took the phone, fingers flying over his tablet. Got it. A message was sent from a cell tower near the old Marina district. 3 possible buildings within range. The Marina, Catherine breathed. Philip used to own property there. A private club. He sold it years ago, but Crawford worked security for those events. He'd know the building. Know how to access it. Daniel was already moving, grabbing his jacket. Marcus, get Chen to meet us there. Catherine, you stay here and manage the press conference delay. Tell them technical difficulties. I'm coming with you, Emma said. No, it's too dangerous. He's my brother. Emma's voice was steel. I'm coming. They stared at each other for a moment, wills clashing. Then Daniel nodded. Stay close to me. Do exactly what I say. Promise me. Promise. 20 minutes later, Emma crouched behind a rusted shipping container near the marina. Daniel beside her, Marcus and 3 security personnel fanned out around them. The old club loomed ahead, windows dark, doors chained. Chen's already inside, Marcus whispered into his comm. Says he's got eyes on the target. 2nd floor, northwest corner. For guards visible, probably more hidden. Can you get Lucas out? Emma asked. It's not without triggering alarms. We need a distraction. Daniel pulled out his phone. Then we give them one. We're going live with the engagement announcement. Now, from here. Daniel, that's insane, Marcus hissed. Crawford will know something's wrong. Exactly. He'll be watching the broadcast, trying to figure out why we're not at the penthouse. It'll split his attention. Give Chen the opening he needs. Emma grabbed Daniel's arm. If we announce it now, we start Crawford's endgame. We can't take it back. I know. Daniel looked at her, and Emma saw the acceptance in his eyes. The willingness to sacrifice everything. But we save Lucas first. Everything else, we figure out later. Emma nodded slowly. Okay, let's do it. Daniel set up his phone on a broken pallet, angling it to show just their faces, hiding the marina background. He started a live stream to his verified social media account. Watched the viewer count climb into thousands within seconds. Good evening, Daniel said. His voice steady, despite the insanity of broadcasting from behind a shipping container. I know you've all been waiting for a statement about the events at my wedding 4 days ago. I'm here tonight with Emma Bennett to finally tell you the truth. Emma appeared beside him on camera, and the comment section exploded. 4 days ago. Emma walked into my wedding by accident, Daniel continued. And in that moment, my entire life changed. I realized I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life. Marrying someone I didn't love. Living a lie to please my family's expectations. He reached for Emma's hand, and the gesture was so natural, so genuine. that Emma almost forgot they were performing for an audience. Forgot that Crawford was watching. Forgot everything except the warmth of Daniel's hand in hers. "Emma is the daughter of Elizabeth Bennett and Thomas Stone," Daniel said, and gasps were audible, even through the phone. "My uncle's great love. The woman my grandfather drove away through threats and cruelty. Emma is my cousin, my family, and the woman I love." Emma's eyes widened. That wasn't part of the plan. They'd agreed to announce an engagement, but Daniel was going further, making it real, making it true. "I'm asking Emma tonight in front of all of you to marry me," Daniel continued. "Not for business, not for family legacy, but because she makes me want to be better than the man my grandfather raised me to be." He turned to face her fully, pulling a ring from his pocket. Not the massive diamond he'd probably planned to give Veronica. Something simpler. A sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. Emma recognized it from Catherine's jewelry box. "Your father's ring," Emma whispered. "Thomas's ring. My grandmother wanted you to have it. Wanted us to have it."
Oh.
Daniel held the ring between them. "Emma Bennett Stone, will you marry me?" In the distance, Emma heard sounds, shouting, movement. Chen making his move while Crawford's attention was locked on the broadcast. She should say yes. That was the plan. Get Lucas to safety, then figure out the rest. But looking into Daniel's eyes, Emma realized something terrifying. She wanted to say yes. Not for Lucas, not for the plan. Not to outmaneuver Crawford or save the company or honor her parents. Lost love. She wanted to marry Daniel Stone because in 4 impossible days, he'd become the person she couldn't imagine living without. "Yes," Emma said, and meant it. "Yes, I'll marry you." Daniel slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her for the cameras and the world and Crawford and everyone watching. When they broke apart, the comment section had gone completely insane. The viewer count had hit 7 figures, and from inside the building, Emma heard Lucas scream, not pain, relief. "Go." Marcus's voice crackled through comms. Emma and Daniel ran, abandoning the phone, still streaming, racing toward the building. Marcus had already breached the main door. Inside, chaos reigned. Chen had Lucas, half carrying him down a stairwell, while Crawford's guards scrambled. Caught between watching the broadcast and stopping the escape, Emma reached Lucas first, grabbing him into a fierce hug. He was bruised and bleeding, but alive. Alive. "I've got you," Emma sobbed. "You're safe. You're safe." But they weren't safe yet. Crawford emerged from a side room, gun in hand, face twisted with rage. "You stupid, stupid children," he snarled. "You think you've won? You think that little show changes anything?" "It changes everything," Daniel said, stepping in front of Emma and Lucas. 7 million people just watched us get engaged. 7 million witnesses. You can't touch us now without the whole world knowing." Crawford laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "I don't need to touch you. The engagement is exactly what I wanted. You played right into my hands." He raised his gun. But before he could fire, another voice rang out. "Drop it." "James?" Everyone turned. Veronica Parker stood in the doorway. Flanked by police officers, she looked different from the bride Emma had seen 4 days ago. Harder. More dangerous. Her eyes locked on Crawford with pure hatred. "Veronica?" Daniel's voice was shocked. "What are you doing here?" "Saving your ungrateful hide," Veronica said coldly. "Crawford approached me after the wedding, told me about his plan. Wanted me to help by suing you, creating legal chaos, keeping you distracted." She stepped closer, and Emma saw the recording device in her hand. "I said yes. Let him think I was in on it. And I recorded every single conversation. Every detail of his scheme. Every admission of kidnapping and extortion and planned murder." Veronica handed the device to the lead officer. "It's all there. Everything you need." Crawford's face went white, then red. He swung the gun toward Veronica, but Marcus was faster. A single shot rang out. Crawford crumpled, gun clattering from his hand. Silence fell over the marina building. Emma clutched Lucas, both of them shaking. Daniel stood frozen, processing what had just happened, and Veronica watched them all with an expression Emma couldn't read. "Why?" Daniel asked Veronica. "After everything, why help us?" Veronica's perfectly manicured facade cracked just for a moment. "Because you were right. I deserved someone who loved me the way your uncle loved Elizabeth. And that person wasn't you." She looked at Emma then, and Emma saw something surprising in her eyes. Not hatred, understanding. "I was angry," Veronica admitted. "Humiliated. But then Crawford showed me his plan. I realized what your grandfather's legacy really was. Cruelty, manipulation. I didn't want to be part of that. Didn't want to build my life on that foundation." She turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, I hope you two are happy. I hope you prove that love can be more than strategy and business deals. I hope you succeed where our parents failed." Then she was gone, leaving them in the wreckage of Crawford's failed revenge. The police took statements. Paramedics checked Lucas. Chen disappeared like smoke. His job done, and Emma stood with Daniel as dawn broke over the marina. Watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. "We did it," she said softly. "We saved him." "Did," Daniel agreed. But Crawford was right about one thing. The engagement video. It starts a legal process. It makes you a stone publicly. It could still trigger whatever trap he set up with the inheritance. Emma looked at the sapphire ring on her finger. Thomas's ring. Her father's ring. "Then we'd better work fast," she said. "How quickly can we dismantle a fortune?" Daniel laughed, the sound exhausted and slightly hysterical. "Let's find out." But as they walked toward Daniel's car, hand in hand, Emma heard something that made her blood run cold. A phone ringing. Lucas had picked up Crawford's dropped cell phone. Was staring at the screen. "Emma," Lucas said, voice shaking. "You need to see this." Emma took the phone. An email, sent on a timer. From Crawford to a dozen recipients. His backup plan. Subject line, "Final Revenge." The email contained all of Crawford's evidence. Every document. Every recording. Every piece of proof that Emma was Philip, Stone's granddaughter. But it also contained something else. A fabricated file showing Thomas Stone had died of suicide. That Elizabeth had been fired for stealing from the Stone family. That Emma was the product of an affair. Not a love story. Lies. All lies. But detailed, convincing. With fake documentation and manipulated photos. "He's destroying our parents' memory," Emma whispered. "Even in death, he's trying to make them look like villains." And the email's recipients? Every major media outlet, every gossip site, every newspaper in the city, the story would break within hours. Emma looked at Daniel, saw her own devastation reflected in his eyes. They'd saved Lucas, stopped Crawford, prevented the murder plot, but Crawford had still won. He'd turned Thomas and Elizabeth's great love story into a sordid scandal. Made Emma's heritage into something shameful. Poisoned the truth before it could set them free. "What do we do?" Emma asked, voice breaking. Daniel pulled her close, and Emma felt his heart beating against hers. "Strong, steady, alive. We tell our own story," Daniel said. "Before anyone else can, we go public with everything. The real documents. Your mother's letters. The truth about my grandfather's cruelty. We don't let Crawford's lies be the only version people hear. But the inheritance. Your company. If we expose everything, we expose the trap." "Then we spring the trap ourselves," Daniel said. "On our terms, not his." Emma looked at Lucas, bruised and exhausted, but safe. Looked at the ring on her finger. Looked at the man who'd given up everything for her and made her choice. "Okay," Emma said. "Let's finish this. Let's tell the world who we really are." Daniel kissed her forehead. "Who are we? Emma Stone?" Emma smiled despite everything. Despite the fear and exhaustion and impossible odds, we're two people who walked into the wrong wedding and found the right life. As they drove toward Catherine's estate, Emma's phone buzzed one last time. a message from an unknown number. But Emma knew, somehow, it wasn't Crawford. Your mother would be proud. Thomas would be proud. Finish what we started. Love. See. Catherine had sent her blessing. Emma looked at Daniel, at Lucas in the back seat, at the sunrise painting the world in gold. The hardest part was still ahead. The revelations. The legal battles. The fight for their parents. Legacy and their own future. But for the first time since walking into that ballroom 4 days ago, Emma felt ready. Ready to be Emma Stone, ready to fight, ready to love, ready for whatever came next. Asterisk. The press conference happened at Catherine's estate exactly 12 hours after Crawford's death. Every major media outlet was there. Cameras and microphones crowding the elegant parlor where 3 generations of Stones had celebrated and schemed and destroyed lives. Emma stood beside Daniel, wearing her mother's dress. The one Elizabeth had kept wrapped in tissue paper for 28 years. Simple white cotton with lace sleeves. The dress she'd planned to wear to marry Thomas Stone. Lucas sat in the front row, bandaged but present. Catherine beside him, spine straight despite her 80 years. And in the back, unexpectedly, Veronica Parker watched with arms crossed, an expression unreadable. Daniel squeezed Emma's hand as the cameras went live. "Thank you for coming," he began. His voice was steady, but Emma could feel the tremor in his hand. 4 days ago, I walked away from my wedding. The media has had a field day speculating why. Tonight, Emma and I are going to tell you the truth. All of it. He nodded to Catherine, who stood and approached a projector screen. 28 years ago, Catherine said, her voice carrying despite its age, my son Thomas fell in love with a woman named Elizabeth Bennett. My husband, Philip Stone, forbade the match. He threatened Elizabeth. Told her he'd take her baby daughter away if she didn't disappear. The screen lit up with the original birth certificate. Thomas Stone, listed as father. Emma Stone, listed as the child's name. Philip had this document sealed, Catherine continued. Paid off officials. Ensured Emma grew up believing she was nobody. Just a flower delivery girl from the wrong side of town. But she was always a Stone, always family, always ours. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Emma stepped forward. Her hands shook, so Daniel moved with her, a solid presence at her side. My mother died 5 years ago, Emma said. She never told me about my father. Never told me I had family. She was protecting me from a man who used wealth as a weapon. From Philip Stone's cruelty. She pulled out the letter. The one Catherine had saved. The one Thomas had never opened. This is a letter my mother wrote to Thomas Stone the day she left. I'm going to read it now. Not because I want to hurt anyone, but because their story deserves to be heard. Their love deserves to be remembered correctly. Emma's voice cracked as she read her mother's words. My dearest Thomas, I'm writing this at the bus station, holding our daughter while she sleeps. Your father came to see me today. He told me what he'd do if I didn't leave. The lawyers he'd hire. The case he'd build. He said I was an unfit mother. A gold digger. A woman trying to trap his son. But we both know the truth. I love you. I love you so much that I'm willing to walk away. Because staying means losing Emma, and I can't lose her, Thomas. She's all I have left of us, of what we could have been. I'm naming her Emma Stone, even if no one will ever know that's who she is. So she'll always carry part of you, even if you never get to hold her, even if you never get to watch her grow up. Tell your mother I'm sorry. Tell her I'll love her son until the day I die. And Thomas, if you're reading this, please know I never blamed you. I blamed the world that made love so complicated. I blamed the money that built walls between hearts. I blamed everything except us. We were real. We were right. And nothing your father says can change that. Love always, Elizabeth. Hey. Silence filled the parlor. Emma saw reporters wiping their eyes. Saw Catherine sobbing openly. Saw Lucas's face twisted with grief for the mother he'd lost and the father his sister had never known. My grandfather got the letter, Daniel said, voice rough. Thomas showed it to him, begging him to help find Elizabeth. And Philip burned it. Told Thomas it was over. Forced him to move on. But Thomas kept a photocopy hidden. Looked at it every day until he died. Daniel pulled out another document. The inheritance clause. Crawford's scheme laid bare. James Crawford, Philip Stone's head of security, discovered Emma's existence 3 years ago. He approached my grandfather's former business partner with a plan. Get Daniel and Emma to marry, consolidating the inheritance, then eliminate them both. Claim the fortune under an obscure legal clause. More murmurs. Cameras zooming in. Crawford kidnapped Emma's brother to force our engagement. Daniel continued. He killed a security guard who tried to stop him. He was planning to kill all of us. But Veronica Parker stopped him. Daniel looked back at Veronica, and Emma saw genuine gratitude in his eyes. She gathered evidence, recorded Crawford's confessions, went to the police. She saved our lives. Veronica shifted uncomfortably under the attention but didn't leave. Emma took a breath. This was the hard part. The part that would cost them everything. Daniel and I announced our engagement last night, Emma said, and that engagement is real. I love him. He loves me. But we're not getting married to claim Philip Stone's fortune.
Ow.
She looked at Daniel. He nodded. Double quotes as of this morning, Daniel said. We've begun the process of dismantling the Stone Empire. Every corporation, every investment, every dollar. We're liquidating assets and transferring them to foundations in Thomas and Elizabeth's names. Scholarships for students from low-income backgrounds. Housing programs for single mothers. Medical debt relief. Everything Philip Stone built through cruelty, we're transforming into something that helps people. The parlor erupted. Reporters shouting questions. Cameras flashing wildly. That fortune is worth billions, a reporter yelled. You're just giving it away? Yes, Emma said simply. Because it was built on pain. On separating people who loved each other. On threatening and manipulating and destroying lives. We don't want it. What will you live on? Another reporter demanded. Daniel smiled, and it was the first genuine smile Emma had seen from him since the marina. I built my own company before I inherited Philip's fortune. My tech business is separate, worth enough that Emma and I can live comfortably, modestly, without blood money. But the condition of the will, a reporter pressed. Emma's not on Philip's approved marriage list. You'll lose everything anyway, we know, Emma said. And we don't care. Because we're not marrying to satisfy Philip Stone's conditions. We're marrying because we choose each other. Because in 4 impossible days, we found something worth more than any fortune. We found love. The kind of love our parents had. The kind that survives cruelty and separation and death. Catherine stood again, moving slowly to the front. She pulled out one final document. There's something else, Catherine said. Something I discovered this morning in Philip's private safe. A codicil to the will. One Philip never told his lawyers about. One he wrote in his final days before he died. Emma's heart stopped. Daniel's hand tightened on hers. Catherine's voice shook as she read. If my granddaughter Emma Stone, daughter of Thomas Stone and Elizabeth Bennett, is found and proven legitimate, she shall have full claim to the estate alongside Daniel. Furthermore, if Daniel chooses to marry Emma, I acknowledge this as fulfilling the spirit of my wishes to keep the fortune within the family bloodline. All previous conditions are hereby nullified. Complete, shocked silence. Philip knew, Catherine whispered, tears streaming. At the end, when he was dying, he knew what he'd done. The pain he'd caused. The love he'd destroyed. This codicil is dated 3 days before his death. He spent his last days trying to make it right, trying to undo the damage. Emma couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Philip Stone, the monster who'd destroyed her parents' lives, had tried to fix it. Why didn't he just tell you? Emma asked. Why hide it? Pride, Catherine said softly. Shame, fear. Philip Stone spent his whole life being powerful and untouchable. Admitting he was wrong would have destroyed the image he'd built. So he wrote this codicil and locked it away, hoping it would be found after his death. hoping we'd understand. Doesn't change what he did, Emma said, voice hard. It doesn't erase the years my mother spent alone. The childhood I lost. The fact that Thomas died heartbroken. No, Catherine agreed. It doesn't. But it means you and Daniel can marry without losing everything. It means Philip's fortune can be yours. You don't have to give it away. Emma looked at Daniel. Saw the question in his eyes. They could keep the money. Live in luxury. Have everything. But Emma thought of her mother, working 3 jobs. Exhausted but happy because she had Emma. Thought of Lucas, growing up in a cramped apartment but never lacking love. Thought of Thomas, carrying a photograph until he died. Proof that some things mattered more than wealth. We're still giving it away, Emma said. Every cent. Because that's not who we are. That's not who we want to be. Daniel smiled, and it was beautiful, proud, full of love. What she said, Daniel agreed. The reporters went wild. Questions flying, cameras flashing. The story of the century unfolding in real time, but Emma barely heard them. She was looking at Catherine, who was crying and smiling simultaneously. At Lucas, who was grinning despite his bandages. At Veronica, who nodded once in approval before slipping out the back door. And at Daniel, who was looking at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. 3 months later, Emma stood in a small garden behind Bennett flowers. White roses and orchids surrounded her. Lucas played guitar, soft classical music filling the air. Catherine sat in the front row, pearls gleaming, tissue pressed to her eyes. The guest list was tiny. 20 people, friends, the few family members who mattered. Marcus and his team, Robert Chen, who'd appeared briefly to pay respects. Even Veronica sent flowers with a note that read simply, "Be happy." Emma wore her mother's dress. Daniel wore a simple gray suit, no tuxedo this time. No crystal chandeliers or designer gowns or hundreds of wealthy strangers. Just 2 people who'd found each other in the chaos. The officiant was the owner of the coffee shop where Emma used to get breakfast. A kind woman who'd watched Emma grow from a scared girl into someone stronger. Do you, Daniel Stone, take Emma Stone to be your wife? I do, Daniel said, and his voice didn't waver. You, Emma Stone, take Daniel Stone to be your husband? Emma looked at the man who'd walked away from his wedding for her, who'd given up billions to honor their parents' love. Who'd stood beside her through kidnapping and murder attempts and impossible choices. I do, Emma said, and meant it with every atom of her being. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Daniel pulled Emma close and kissed her as Lucas's guitar soared and Catherine sobbed, and the afternoon sun painted everything gold. When they broke apart, Emma saw tears on Daniel's cheeks, felt her own streaming down her face. Hello, wife, Daniel whispered. Hello. Husband, Emma whispered back. The reception was held in the flower shop. Tables crowded between buckets of roses and daisies. Catherine gave a toast about second chances and finishing what others started. Lucas performed a song he'd written about love surviving impossible odds, and as Emma danced with Daniel in the cramped space between the register and the cooler, she thought about all the ways this could have gone wrong if she delivered flowers to the right ballroom, if Daniel hadn't looked up when she entered, if Catherine hadn't recognized her mother's eyes, if they'd both chosen safety over risk, comfort over truth, money over love. What are you thinking? Daniel asked, pulling her closer. That I walked into the wrong wedding, Emma said, and found exactly the right life. Daniel smiled against her hair. Want to know a secret? Always. It wasn't the wrong wedding, Daniel said. It was always meant to be yours. I was just waiting for you to arrive. Emma laughed, the sound joyful and free. That's incredibly cheesy. I know. Do you mind? Not even a little. They kept dancing as the sun set and the flower shop filled with the scent of roses, and the sound of laughter and the feeling of family. Chosen and found and fiercely protected. 6 months later, The Thomas and Elizabeth Stone Foundation opened its doors. Emma ran it alongside Daniel, using the liquidated fortune to help people the way her mother had always wanted to help people. Scholarships were awarded. Medical debts were erased. Single parents got housing support. Crawford's accomplices were prosecuted. Philip's business partner lost everything in the legal battle. Veronica married a kind accountant and sent Emma a card saying she'd never been happier. Lucas got into music school on a scholarship that had nothing to do with Emma's new name or Daniel's connections. Just talent and hard work. Catherine lived to see her first great-grandchild, a daughter Emma and Daniel named Elizabeth. She held the baby in her arms and cried, saying she looked just like Thomas, just like the son she'd lost, and Emma, who'd spent her whole life being invisible, being nobody, learned what it meant to be somebody without wealth defining it. She was Emma Stone, daughter of Elizabeth and Thomas, wife of Daniel, sister of Lucas, granddaughter of Catherine, and most importantly, herself. One evening, Emma found Daniel on their apartment balcony. They'd bought a modest place downtown, nothing like the penthouse, but with a view of the city lights and each other. "What are you doing?" Emma asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Thinking about that day," Daniel said. "When you walked into my wedding. I was standing at the altar, feeling dead inside, and then you appeared, like fate, like magic. Or like a flower delivery girl who can't read room numbers," Emma teased. Daniel turned in her arms, cupping her face. "Do you ever regret it? Walking through those doors? Everything that happened after?" Emma thought about it. The fear, the violence, the impossible choices, the fortune they'd given away, the simple life they'd chosen instead. "Not for a second," Emma said honestly. "Do you?" "Never." Daniel kissed her forehead. "I'd do it all again. Every terrifying moment, just to end up here. With you." They stood together on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker like stars. Somewhere below, people were living their lives, making choices, finding love or losing it, building empires or tearing them down. But up here, in this moment, Emma and Daniel had everything that mattered. They had each other. They had chosen love over money, truth over comfort, risk over safety, and they had proven that sometimes walking into the wrong wedding is exactly what you need to do to find your way home. Emma looked at the sapphire ring on her finger. Thomas's ring. Her father's ring. Now hers and Daniel's. A symbol of love that had survived death and cruelty and impossible odds. A symbol of second chances, of stories that finish, even when they seem doomed, of flower delivery girls who change the world by accident. Emma smiled and kissed her husband under the stars, grateful for wrong turns and right choices and the beautiful chaos of falling in love, because some mistakes aren't mistakes at all. Some mistakes are destiny wearing a disguise. And some weddings, even the wrong ones, are exactly where you're supposed to be. The end.